Well, good evening. It is day 100 of year 47. And I feel like I should have a lot I should be proud of. I checked my weight today and I've been looking to still kind of drop a bit. Today I was under 160 pounds, down from a high of either 185 or 186. So I've lost almost like over 25 pounds over the last 3 months, and I feel like that's definitely an accomplishment, right? Yeah, I know you're probably going, what a great day 100 accomplishment, right? And I think I wanted at first more than anything just to get rid of extra weight. I mean, that was my clear initial goal for year 47, to get to that place, but I also wanted to be in this place where I was feeling healthier and feeling better about who I was. And I know that keto and carnivore generally will grant you really good health benefits. Again, if you're not on something like low carb, ketogenic, or carnivore, I really recommend it. We just are so used to putting junk into our bodies, and we think of it like nothing. Candy bars, processed food, junk food, even the whole foods that we might think are healthy, like fruit and whatnot, that in excess. And some would argue like those on carnivore, even in small amounts, are so easy to get addicted to that it just causes this chain cycle. And again, I'm becoming more and more convinced that one of the great evils of our current society is the quick availability of the type of, I'm not even sure you could call it food anymore, but the type of stuff that really is not meant to satiate you or actually be nutritive, but in reality it's just there to frankly entertain you and keep you addicted. You have to remember that big food companies are not particularly interested in you being healthy. They're more interested in making a profit off of you. They look at you as somebody from whom they can sacrifice your health and profit off the back of your health. So I would highly recommend, at the very least, you think somewhere around low carb or keto. Your body will thank you for it. And again, I think there's a mounting body of scientific evidence around the idea that sugar really is not something we should be consuming in any sort of large quantity. And again, for some like carnivores, if at all. Having said that, I was thinking about today and sort of what it's like to be on this journey, and I realized that it's really challenging when you're doing it by yourself. I'm the cook of the house, and because I'm usually the one who's making all the other food. And much like any sort of transition for anybody else, I think the first thing you have to do is really be willing to do it yourself and then prove to other folks that it actually works. So in the meantime, I'm making my whatever, ground beef and eggs or bacon or steak or whatever, my sort of carnivore based meals. But then for my kids, at least for now, and my family, they're generally not on board. So I'm trying to keep it as high protein as possible, but they're still eating, rice, noodles, pasta, etc. And I'm not trying to say it's like bad on them. I would love it if they would get on board, but clearly I either have not been doing a good job of convincing them, or it's really hard, and both are true at the same time, I think, here. But it's hard. You cook all this other food, for your family that you can't eat, and really it's just for them. And the irony here is that it's not about wanting to eat this I saw this one particular carnivore YouTuber, and she was saying, yeah, she looks at this bakery that she used to get stuff from, and she would just eat all the pastries in one sitting, etc. Now she passes by it and she doesn't miss it at all. She says, oh, this is really pretty, but at the end of the day, she's like, I'm not putting that in my body. It's not meant to be consumed. And that's how I feel in terms of like looking at the food and going, okay, I don't think this should be consumed. It's like at a certain point, like when an older person, let's use the easy example of when somebody has to get to a place where they have to stop eating candy, and they look at a lollipop, and hopefully at a certain point after they've stopped eating so much candy, they look at a lollipop and go, I don't want that as much as I used to anymore. But here obviously it's not just a lollipop or candy, it's just the baked goods of any type, right? But it's not the biological impulse to eat anymore. It's the sociological thing that I'm missing, the social stuff around eating that I'm really starting to miss at certain points. And some of you may say, well, you could just go to a barbecue restaurant to do that. Korean barbecue, easy win there, right? Sure. But you're not going to eat Korean barbecue every day. You're going to churches, and you're hanging out with friends, and you have work events where they're serving alcohol and they're serving hors d'oeuvres and whatnot, and you're just in this place where you don't really fit in. And it just feels awkward. Sometimes it's just, you just don't eat, or you just eat sort of the meat-based stuff, which can, if you're lucky, is there, but it just sucks being the odd one out. And right now I'm just trying to think about how do you psychologically deal with that? How do you mentally deal with that? Because it's very isolating. And it's really isolating when you're around people who clearly are just trying to have fun, and then in a lot of ways your very presence, particularly if you've been even semi-vocal about why you're not doing what you're doing, why you're eating proper human diet, etc. It's almost like you're like kind of a damper on other people's fun. Like that person, they're not doing the whole thing that we're all used to doing. So in real time, I'm just trying to think of what are the reasons or what are the ways we can kind of get around that. Well, number one, I'm starting to realize now I need to find a real community. It's just hard doing this by myself. I actually thought about trying to start a community in my church around what I'm thinking of calling four pillar wellness, around things like diet, sleep, exercise, and stress management. But even there, the focus is not going to be on diet per se. It's going to be on sort of a whole wellness paradigm. So there, I mean, and then I'd be the one forwarding that. So me having to do that myself feels like the more difficult task of bringing that community together. So that's one. So yeah, I mean, I think I'm gonna have to find a community, and I might have to pay for it. There's nothing here in Westchester, at least as far as I can tell. There may be more folks in New York City, but again, that's kind of, in terms of my daily life, it's kind of far to do that every day. That's one. I think the other one, I'm just trying to think of, what am I trading? What am I giving away? Yeah, I'm giving away a little bit of convenience. I think that's another thing. Like, I'm trading convenience. It's just so easy to get food, even now, I mean, I went to the Dunkin' Donuts, and again, I've just got myself a coffee with cream. However, people can drink coffee. I think I'm a coffee drinker. I try to get off of it, but I'm not. It's kind of one of my few creature comforts. No sugar, obviously. But yeah, the convenience of being able just to grab something and just the feel of having something in your mouth, right? But all that aside, thinking about the trade-offs of being healthy and my clothes fitting better, I'm trading that for feeling groggy and feeling listless and just feeling really not great and not my best self. I mean, I feel better. I guess I was expecting some sort of super high from this. And I'm not saying it's still not worth it. But because I've been able to do this once before, and now I'm really trying to be committed to doing this again, there isn't this sort of amazing, like, oh my goodness, you're doing, like your body is like so transformed and your mind is so, I don't know, like you're superhuman. I hear all these stories about carnivores being superhuman and doing superhuman things, and their teeth are growing back and all that stuff, and they're losing like 300 pounds and stuff. And I mean, my gains feel modest. They don't feel like they're super out there. But to be clear, I think part of it also is like I've been on this for a good, what? Maybe 100 days. And it's not been that long yet. Maybe I have to wait a year, maybe 2. After all, I've been wrecking my body for the past 47 years. There's no real way you're gonna transform your body long term. And we're talking not just about we're not just talking about weight. We're talking about kind of fundamental like processes in your body, like respiration and energy consumption, how your mitochondria work now that they're not like super glycated from all the sugars that I used to eat. These sort of changes to the entire makeup of our body, I realize they can't be solved in even just a 3-month time period. These healing takes time. And I think that's the other really challenging part of this. Because it just takes time. And it takes time to just kind of walk slowly. And again, I don't have any like, I mean, some people would say, wow, it's miraculous, you lost 25 pounds. And I'm like, for some reason, that just doesn't seem like amazing to me. I'm just trying to figure out what is that next jump for me. I mean, maybe it's muscular. Maybe I got to really just start working out. I did say to myself that once I lost a certain amount of weight, I really got to get back in the gym and do something I wouldn't have been able to do as well. I wanted to go back and do rock climbing, and that seems to be kind of one of the things I really was looking forward to doing. But yeah, I just, like the trade-off of having eaten a good proper human diet versus the convenience of what I had before, it only feels marginally better. And I don't mean to knock it. I feel healthier than I've ever been, but at the same time, it's just trying to figure out what is that, what's that X factor that all these carnivores seem to have that I just don't feel or just don't sense. Or maybe I have it, I'm taking it for granted now. So one thing that's been a plus on this is the discipline of having to track things has been interesting, because I've kind of started to go off on certain tangents because I have a little bit of a budget from work to spend on health related things. I bought myself a Hume Body Pod, and so now I've been looking at things. I used to just, let me start. So when I was first starting out, what I was doing was I was just weighing myself, and I didn't really think anything of it. And then I realized that I bought a Renpho scale, which allows you to actually get these sort of like DEXA scan type things. And while it's calculated more from a like mean distribution type deal of like population statistics and all that stuff, that stuff actually started to really interest me. And so at a certain point, I actually bought a Hume Body Pod, which gives you kind of DEXA scan type. You hold the handle and you stand on the scale, and you really track what you're doing. Earlier on, I would just log everything I was eating, and at a certain point, that did get annoying. But it's also because you realize that part of what's annoying about logging everything you're eating is because you're eating so many different things, and you start to realize, yeah, you're putting a lot of different stuff in your body. I've kind of stopped doing that because most of the time I know what I've eaten and it doesn't vary that much. So I don't actually have to log a whole bunch. It's just more to note, okay, what time did I do it? Yeah, because at some points I would just be really meticulous about, here's what I ate. Because carnivore says just eat meat and just eat till you're full, I would just log, okay, I ate pork belly, I had bacon, I had ground beef, blah, 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 steak, etc., avocado, whatever have you. And so logging them into ChatGPT would be kind of give me a sense of what I was eating and how I was tracking those things. And it made me pay attention to what I was doing. Obviously, paying attention to my weight gave me something to aim for. The DEXA scan stuff on the Body Pod now gives me a really in-depth analysis, as much as that it possibly can. They say that they get within 1% to 2% of the DEXA scan stuff, which that's good enough for me. It sounds like I'm really, obviously, after weight loss is not the deal here. It's to get your muscle to fat ratios right. And so those have been increasing in the positive direction. Even better, looking to get to somewhere around 15% or 16% body fat. I'm like around 19% right now. And so trying to get that down a little bit more. And so that obviously will help if I start, working out a little bit more. What was it? And then randomly, a friend gave me a CGM, and so I have a CGM on the bottom. I just started tracking my glucose because I was worried I was because I had some indicators that I was pre-diabetic last year, and so I thought, okay, maybe this will track me. And then I started researching about it, and for me, my blood glucose is usually in the 100 to 120 range, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is awful. My blood stuff is like glycated and whatnot. But then you read up on how blood glucose for carnivores is going to be a little bit higher because especially your A1C, because, well, frankly, again, I've only been doing this 3 months, so this is going to take a while for my body to heal. Number two, it's super steady. I don't have any blood spikes. My range of my blood glucose when I'm asleep gets down to about maybe 85 milligrams per deciliter, and then when I wake up, it goes up to 100, and then after I eat and during the day, it fluctuates. I don't even know if me eating, because I'm not eating any carbs, I don't have any sort of real super spikes. I literally stay within a very narrow band, relatively speaking, for most people who eat. When you eat something sugary, you're going to jump at least 50 to 60 milligrams per deciliter. But for me, I stay literally between 137 and 100 most of the day, and then it goes down like when I go to sleep. And then rinse and repeat. But tracking that was actually really interesting to see, okay, here's how my body is reacting to the foods that I'm eating. And so the whole gist of this is that I think it really does help you think really diligently when you have to track things and think about how is what you're eating affecting your progress. And so yeah, I think that's been a net positive, because now I am a lot more aware, because a lot of the metrics that I was doing before, like say 3 or 4 years ago when I did this the first time, I definitely excuse me, I amped up a lot more on the metrics this time around, and it's way more informative about kind of what my progress is and where I need to go and where I have like growth areas. So the tracking has been also good, just to be in the discipline of knowing what I've been doing. So I guess that's a plus. I feel like I'm the most disappointing carnivore ever. I feel like I should have these like amazing stories again. There's nothing super exciting about kind of how about my journey here, I suppose. I just thought also right now of the fact that when you are just not so focused on eating all the time, you really have a lot more time. It's kind of incredible if you think about the amount of time you think about when it comes to eating, right? Particularly if you're a snacker, having to munch on something while you type at your keyboard while you're at work, or just having something to munch on as you're going about your day. We do that so much. And I think part of the reason why I feel restless is because I just have more time in my hands than I used to think I did. So that dovetails with some of what I've been doing with the time that I have now that I don't snack or use all this time in the world to eat. What I mean, so to give people a little bit of context, I have not really had more than 2 full meals a day at most. And most days, it's 1 plus maybe a little bit of, I don't know if I want to call it snacking, but definitely, like, if I'm a little peckish in the evening, I'll have something, but that's about it. So it's like 1.5 meals for me at most every day. So what do I do? So after I eat, I often try to take a walk I'm not going to have a massive blood glucose spike, but it's just a good practice of, once you're done eating, you go and you walk and you kind of consume some energy so that any glucose that's produced, particularly through gluconeogenesis, even as you eat protein, yes, your insulin does spike, and so that because your blood then your hormones produce glucose to fuel your muscles as you go walking, etc. But yeah, I use that extra time to walk now, to just get some exercise and whatnot. But yeah, it's just really strange to not eat anymore. I even think about those late night snacking sessions and I go, or not even late night snacking sessions, even when it gets to start being late, like right now it's about 7:30 in the evening. The minute it hits around 8 or 9, I definitely know I'm okay. Definitely do not put any more food in your body. You're done, dude. Like, if you're hungry now, just wait till tomorrow. And ironically, you're not really that hungry in the morning. It's just me just combating a little bit of the munchies in the early evening and just going, I don't need to eat. But yeah, just not using that time to eat, where the food noise in your head, food noise being like that sort of cacophony in your head when you have all those sort of cravings and whatnot for things you really shouldn't be eating. You really shouldn't be eating, and that's not there either too. So I guess that's a good thing. But I think as it goes for so many people in our society, when we quit doing something, the question is, what do we do with the free time that we have now, given that we actually don't aren't using that time for food? Yeah, and I guess in that way, it really does, the whole carnivore thing really does make you more productive, because now you're not spending so much time thinking about food. Having said that, the preparation definitely is a pain in the ass, especially if you're going out somewhere. For example, if I'm going to church and I was going to basically be there all morning playing, unless they have a specific lunch designed in the morning, you gotta prep it. and you got to prep it with the mindset that either they need a microwave or you're going to be eating it cold. It's not like you can readily buy something unless you have a particular thing nearby that you can, like a deli you can go by nearby and grab food from there. Having said that, yeah, you just got to prep more. Snacks are just not a thing, mostly because you have to, like, eating is just so much more deliberate. It is really challenging in that regard. But it can be done. It's just annoying. For example, since I'm trying to eat just meat, I went to Costco and I bought this huge rib roast cut up into steaks. Ironically, what I thought was going to take the most time was cutting the steak. That was lightning fast. The packaging up, the vacuum sealing, that took forever. Easily took me an hour and a half to seal those all up. So, I mean, that's one way I've been trying to prep in terms of my carnivore journey. And yeah, you just can't snack. If you want to eat and you need to eat real food, you have to fry some eggs. You have to cook some ground beef. You have to air fry a steak. Cook some pork belly. Like, you just can't not pull something out of the kitchen, like pantry, unless you have like a beef stick or something, right? And even then, that's not sustainable. Because even with those things, you're not necessarily sure sometimes unless they're coming from sort of reputable keto or carnivore place. At a certain point, you can't snack like constantly. It's just not cost effective. And as Ken Berry would say, like, if you see on the package says keto cookie, keto pie, keto cake, is anything that says keto on it is not going to be really keto, even though they say it's going to be. Lights turned off. So yeah, preparing food, that is annoying. But again, I think that also comes back to the idea of, food should not be okay, it's not this is not, I hope this doesn't sound like raw, but food should not be so readily available the way it is, because the way food comes to us is super processed and not particularly healthy for us. But the fact that it is unhealthy and so readily available to us means something about the way we consume food is just not right to begin with. We always talk about consuming whole foods, right? But consuming whole foods means that they're not going to come prepackaged. They're not going to have all this preservatives on them. They're things that you're going to have to work to prepare to get them into your system that requires time. And maybe that's kind of what the issue is. As many of my fellow carnivores we are surrounded by a world that has food available at the snap of a finger, instant noodles, etc., that can be consumed by our fellow human beings who are not interested or not inclined towards a carnivore diet, and we have to work towards getting our food. And maybe that's just a reality of being the kind of person who says food, to eat real food, to have a proper human diet, we can't just like snap our fingers and have it come out of thin air. The very fact or the very process of desiring to snap your fingers and getting food delivered to you on a platter, outside of the actual preparation of things and not being a billionaire and having a butler or private chef like available to you, even then, for that sort of diet, they need to prepare it. It takes time. It's not like it can appear right away. The idea of taking food seriously as a task that requires the right kind of time and energy to nourish you. So, Yeah, I think that's the time changes when you're eating a proper human diet. Other things I've been thinking about. Yeah, so what's next from the next 100 days? Honestly, not sure. Some of the things I've been thinking about, I do want to start a wellness group at my church. Not solely focused on nutrition, but if it's my group, I'm going to kind of focus a pretty hefty amount on that. I should work on getting my my physical body a little bit better. I was doing that in the very early part of this year 47 challenge, but I definitely now am in a place where, okay, you lost the weight. Go rock climbing. Go do something that's going to strengthen your body. I guess the question there is like, how do I leverage myself now that I am healthier? What do I do with this? And I alluded to this before in another video, but I'm trying to take the lessons that I've been learning about myself and carnivore and applying them to my mental health. And I confess that my mental health these past few years has not been good. And I think one of the things that I realized the other day, as I had one of those really bad, snapping, angry episodes at my wife. I mean, we're talking bad. I threw stuff, and I'm not proud of that. I realized that what I want to do there is to apply the discipline that I earned on carnivore and applying it to my mental health. Things like learning how to sit with my hunger and be productive about that. If I can do that with my hunger, I can do that with my anger. If I have temptation when it comes to hunger and wanting to do something with that, when the temptation to act on my anger happens, how can I apply the discipline of what I learned on carnivore to my mental health? I think we will all agree that, hey, look, diet can take you really far, but we all know that that's only one piece of a larger puzzle. You got to get your sleep right, you got to get your exercise right, your movement right, and you got to get your stress management, you got to get your cortisol down. Because I know people who eat really healthy, but they're so stressed out that stress, that cortisol in their system literally causes them to be inflamed, even though they're eating really healthy. Because we're whole human beings. We're not just body. We're mind as well, and our minds affect our body. So over these next few months, I got to figure out, how do I apply the discipline that I've been learning on carnivore in my diet and apply it to my mental health. So that's another thing that I've been working on. Yeah, those are the three things I'm working on. Anyway, this video has gone a bit long in the tooth. If you've been watching, thanks for listening. Please share in the comments if you are on this journey too, whatever it is, whether it's diet, whether it's sleep, whether it's nutrition, whether it is your mental health, getting any of those things better. Look, that's being on the road to recovery and onto better health. That's definitely what this channel is about. Together, I want you guys to know that progress and change is possible through this channel. I think I hopefully am a little bit of a living testimony to that. Again, would love to hear from y'all in wherever your journey is at, and looking to be a encouragement to you in wherever your health journey is at. Okay, that'll do it for day 100's in the books. Looking forward to another 100 days of progress, and I'm sorry I haven't been blogging as much as I should. That's number 4. I really want to make this eventually a full-time thing, helping people grow in their health journey and making that sort of the centerpiece of my sort of new outlook on life, and making this a place where people can really find information to grow for their health journey. Yep. Okay. Long in the tooth. Let's be done with this. Day 100's in the books. we will see you later. Again, remember, in year 47, change is possible. We'll see you later. Cheers.